Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to this episode of our Click and Coffee event. Today, we will discuss developments and questions around the MENA region, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this event. My name is Felix Brücher. I'm the head of Department Market and Commercial Underwriting for the German Export Credit Agency, managed and administered by Euler Hermes. I have three guests with me today. I would like to introduce to you right now. First of all, I would like to introduce to you Heena Nazir, Director of the Export Promotion Agency of Germany, Germany Trade and Invest in Dubai. Heena is one of the directors in Dubai, working closely with investors in the region, as well as exporters from Germany. Heena, welcome to this online event. We're very happy to have you with us. Secondly, Eva Steinhaus, financing expert and our point of contact in the region. She heads the German Centre for Export Financing at the German Emirati Joint Council of Industry and Commerce, also known as Außenhandelskammer in the United Arab Emirates. Thank you very much, Eva, for joining us again. You have been one of the cornerstones of this format, so thank you again for joining us today and bringing your expertise, your local knowledge to the table. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Jan von Allwörden, Head of Department Underwriting and Risk Management, and one of the most experienced guys in the field when it comes to transactions in the Middle East and beyond. Jan has, I guess, more than 30 years of experience in export finance, more than 30 years with Hermes. Jan, thank you very much for joining us today and giving your perspective on the developments and, of course, the possibilities in the future in the MENA region and how we can support German banks and exporters, but as well importers and investors from the region. Welcome to this online event to all of you, and thank you for joining us today, to all of the participants from all over the world, but especially, of course, from the region, from the Middle East. We're happy that you take the time to join us today. As always, we would like to keep this this format as interactive as possible. So please feel free to ask any question in the Q&A format on the right-hand side of your WebEx screen. We will be happy to answer your questions as soon as possible. But let's dive right in. A couple of weeks ago, we had our ECA CEO Edna Schöne discussing with my colleague Sophia Schulz-Renz, as well as our Allianz chief economist Ludovic Subran, the post-COVID developments. And we identified three main or key takeaways. The first one was that the global economy is certainly in post-COVID mode, but we have seen different stages of these of this post-COVID mode. The global supply chains, secondly, are under severe pressure, but the concept as such that global supply chains will help us out of this crisis is not under strain. We still see multilateralism and global trade as one of the key ways out of this economic crisis, and as one of the main paths to sustainable economic growth. And of course, the German export industry has everything that makes it strong in the future, and it's our aim and our commitment to make use of these opportunities. So that were the three main takeaways from a macro perspective. And today we will dive in deeper, looking at the MENA region and identifying possibilities for growth, both for the importers in the region, as well as the German exporting community. Germany Trade and Invest provides superb information to both parties, to investors as well as exporters. And Germany Trade and Invest is the point to call to if you need information on a very detailed basis. The database as well as the correspondence are top-notch when it comes to the local perspective. Therefore, we have called on them again to give their perspective on the region, as well as the possibilities that this region holds for German and European exporters. Heena, what is your perspective on the region? Please provide us with your economic update. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the very kind introduction, Felix. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Heena Nazir, and as Felix already mentioned, I work for Germany Trade and Invest. And today I'm here to give you a brief economic update on the GCC region. I'm just trying to go through the presentation. Now it's working great. So I will guide the rest of my presentation along the following points. I would like to talk a little bit about the economic development and of course the oil prices. Then I would like to look into the foreign trade with a special focus on the development of German exports. And last but not least, I would like to give an overview of the project market. And I would like to start with the introduction of my organization. Felix already kindly did it, but just very, very quickly, so you know who we are and what we do. And so Germany Trade and Invest is the economic development agency of the Federal Republic of Germany. And as the name suggests, and already Felix actually already said, we have two departments. One is the trade department, where we write and conduct analysis about different aspects of foreign markets to inform German companies about business opportunities in these markets. And then we have the Invest department, which actually works the other way around, which helps German companies to set up businesses, foreign companies to set up businesses in Germany. We do this all with the support of the Federal Ministry and for Economic Affairs and Energy. We have more than 50 offices worldwide, and here in Dubai we have actually two directors. It's me, who is mainly looking into UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Afghanistan and Pakistan, and my colleague Robert Esbay, who looks into the Saudi market, but also Kuwait, Oman and Iran. Now coming to the main part of the presentation, the regional update, I would like to start looking into the economic development. Here we have a nice slide about the GCC growth outlook. So in 2020, as Felix already mentioned, the combination of COVID-19 pandemic and a collapse in oil prices has affected all aspects of economies in this region. And looking into different markets, we can see that the GDP growth, for example, in the UAE contracted strongly to around 6.1%. In the growth in Saudi Arabia dropped to around 4.1%. In Qatar, we are speaking of a contraction of of around 3.6%. But the growth outlook looks quite promising. The average GDP growth rate for the GCC region is about 2.1% for 2021 and around 3.7% for 2022. And there are various reasons for that. First, the accommodative fiscal and monetary policy supports of the economies here, they help to support to get an upward trend, especially when it comes to consumption, and that already early on in the forecasted period. Private consumption are also strengthened by high domestic vaccination rates. You must have heard in this region, especially the UAE was one of the top countries when it came to the vaccination rates around here, and also the return of the foreign workers in 2021. Like in 2020, we could see that a lot of people actually left the UAE, but now we can see a trend how the people are actually coming back. And that, of course, is going to spur the demand in private consumption. But also there is a much stronger focus on international relations. For instance, the Abraham Accords will increase business ties between the UAE and Israel, but also, of course, very important, the end of the boycott against Qatar. These new, or better say fairly new cooperation will help to boost the economies in the GCC region. There is also a lot of hope around the big events which are happening right now. Here in the UAE, we have the Expo 2020 and the Football World Championship in 2022 in Qatar. It's hoped that, you know, these kind of events will create a certain momentum. When we talk about this region, we can't talk about it without actually looking into the oil price. And here we can see that it actually reached a record high, it's a 3-year high of around $80 per barrel. And this has several reasons. I will just highlight some of them. First, of course, the easing of the coronavirus-related travel restrictions. Secondly, economic recovery, especially there in key markets like the US and China, which has a very positive impact. But also oil prices have increased over the past year as a result of a steady draw on global oil inventories. And in addition, prices increased after the October announcement of the OPEC Plus, that the group would actually not change the current production much. So production will be increased by a modest 400,000 barrels a day in November. So this all is helping to keep the oil prices up. And experts are saying that oil prices will actually remain at around $85 per barrel up until 2022, and then only ease gradually from the second quarter of the year to about $75 per barrel. But this is still good news for this region. And here it's, I thought it's more interesting to look into perspective. Great, oil prices are doing great, but what does it exactly mean for this region and especially for the countries? So we can see that for my countries, we're looking into it. To get a fiscal break even, Saudi Arabia needs around $82 per barrel. UAE needs around $69 per barrel, and Qatar, with a strength in LNG, only needs around $46.5 per barrel. These, of course, are just estimates, but they help to get an understanding about how oil prices are actually related to the fiscal balances of these countries, and we can see that this is actually quite good news. Next, I would like to look into foreign trade. In 2020, I mean, of course, we all know there were sharp declines. This is, by the way, highlighted as the blue column here around the whole area. We could see that it dropped immensely also when it came to imports, but the outlook for 2021, which is highlighted here as the gray column, they already look quite positive. And as I mentioned before, I would like to look more into the German exports to the GCC countries. Here I have data up to the first 8 months of 2021, and here we can see that for this period of time we had approximately of 10 billion euros when it comes to German exports. So most of these countries are actually recording positive figures, as we can see from this slide. The UAE had an increase of around 10.6%. Qatar had a very similar growth rate. In Kuwait and Bahrain, we have a single-digit growth. However, in Saudi Arabia and especially Oman, there was a great decline. let's look into the details. For the UAE, there was a huge demand increase for road vehicles and other transport equipment from Germany. When we look into data from Qatar, it's especially also the road vehicles, just like in the UAE, and electrical machinery. In Saudi, as I mentioned, there was a huge decline, and that's actually mainly because of the medicinal and pharmaceutical products, but also because of chemical materials and products. And the reason for that, I talked yesterday to some experts on the Saudi market, and they were saying that when the crisis, the corona crisis, started, a lot was actually imported, especially when it comes to medicine and pharmaceutical products. And now it's easing a bit, but it's more like a basis effect because the number increased so much during the COVID-19 crisis that it looks like a huge decline right now, but it's not, it's just counterbalancing each other. Now coming to the project market, this is actually the last topic I will be touching here. So the project business throughout the GCC region was hit hard by the coronavirus pandemic and the drop in oil prices in 2020. Projects were delayed, postponed, and even given up entirely. But the situation has changed a bit. We have more of a mixed picture here. As we can see from this slide, this data reflects the period of the first 9 months of 2021, with Qatar, Saudi, and Bahrain posting growth, whereas the situation is different in Oman, Kuwait, and the UAE. Let's start with Qatar, as we have the first column here, as we have a very huge and impressive growth rate here of around 135%. As we can see from this slide, 84% of it is actually attributable to gas and the oil sector. And that's mainly because Qatar Energy announced that construction has started of 4 new liquefied natural gas trains as part of an expansion project to raise capacity by 2026. The package is part of the first phase of its North Field LNG scheme, known as the North Field East, which in total has an investment sum of around 28.5 billion US dollars. And for the first phase, which was awarded just recently, we are talking about a volume about 13 billion US dollars. So if we look into the Saudi market, we can see that the new project awards increased to around 7.6%, amounting to around 18.8 billion US dollars. In the last couple of years, Saudi Arabia was the biggest project market in the region. I mean, many well-known mega projects such as NEOM or Jeddah Economic City and others make up a staggering amount of about 900 million US dollar worth of project under construction. So here on the slide, you actually only see the new project awards. So this is actually quite impressive, and even in comparison to other countries, Saudi Arabia is quite well placed. As I mentioned before, we have a volume here of 18.8 billion US dollar, and this is much more than in other countries, even in comparison with Qatar, because if we deduct the 13 billion US dollars of the LNG project, then the overall volume actually stayed the same as it was in the previous time frame. Also, when we look into the distribution of the project market here in Saudi Arabia, we can see it's much more diverse. In Qatar, as I mentioned, most of it is attributable to oil and gas. And here in Saudi, we can see it's much more even out. It's much more diverse. We have 25% here for power, 28% for construction. But also when it comes to water projects, they are pushed much more here as well. The last country I would like to look into is the UAE project market. As we could see from the overall slide, there has been a decline of around 36.4%. And when we look into the different Emirates, we can see that especially Abu Dhabi and the Northern Emirates were hit hard when it came to the reduction here. And the main reason for this is that government spending allocated to infrastructure investments fell sharply in 2020 and 2021. And the government focus now is on protecting the businesses and operations that already exist instead of actually announcing new projects. The construction sector here is still quite big, even though it has a lot of structural problems, but still main of the projects are attributable to construction sector here, accounting for about 56%. This is actually bringing me to the end of the presentation. We can, just to summarize, we can see that most of the countries are showing economic recovery. Imports are increasing, projects are pushed forward, and for 2022, it's expected that the economic activities will actually increase. So thank you very much. This is it from my side, and I would like to hand over to Felix. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heena, for this detailed and interesting view on the different markets. My key takeaway is we're pretty well on the road to recovery. Still a couple of stumbling blocks, mostly infrastructure and consumption driven, of course. Therefore, that should be something which fits well with many of the strategies that German exporters are following, and therefore over to Eva, who's the person to call when it comes to projects in the region where you would like to tap into export financing. Eva, what is your perspective? What kind of transactions are you seeing at the moment? And as you are in a position to see these projects very early in their phase, what are the current projects that you are seeing?
Yes, thank you, Felix, for the introduction. Also, Heena, it's great to sort of follow up on your presentation, as it gives a good backdrop for what we see here in the region. It's not so clear in terms of like one or two industries dominating the requests that I've received. I have to say, maybe also just for people who are first time here with the Click and Coffee and may not be familiar with the setup. I'm heading the Competence Centre for Export Finance in the Chamber of Commerce, very closely working with Euler Hermes. It's a setup that was chosen to or worked best in this foreign environment. And in the first year, of course, due to COVID, there were different trends going on, and conversations were hampered by the impact of not being able to meet in person. I see now, actually, since the beginning of the year, that there is more and more in-person conversations. Also, there's a bit of a pickup in terms of requests. Some of them in the very early stages and still trying to figure out whether there is a doable deal behind that, or what kind of structure do we need to implement. But it's a very diverse portfolio in a way, where you have from the small, diverse in the sense of amounts, but also diverse in the sense of industries. Maybe something to add to what Heena said is also that we are here in the Gulf region, particularly always looking at this aspect of diversification. That's a subject that has been around for many years. It rises and falls a little bit with the oil price. The pressure, of course, is much more on when the oil price falls, and the recognition that we need to diversify. We need to move away from oil and gas as the primary source of income. And of course, this also has been pushed ahead a little bit with the COVID crisis. Various visions are implemented for whether you call them 2030 or even beyond that. There is a drive to have zero carbon emissions. But this theme of diversification, maybe you could look at it from three aspects. It's diversification in the economy and the sources of income, the diversification also from financing sources, and diversification in the energy sources. So, of course, economy and energy is linked, as I said. So you have also, when it comes to the economy and these different visions, a cornerstone of that is having more local manufacturing, which we could say, well, we are very well placed as a German economy and with our industries providing machinery and equipment to actually set up various facilities, whether that be in Saudi Arabia, UAE, or Oman. Those are probably the main markets that I see. So that is somehow more an expectation than at the moment really coming through in requests. So you still see a lot of smaller activity, maybe not a big firm being set up, but I think that's going to be coming more and more. When it comes to diversification of energy, of course, hydrogen right now is a big topic. I was just this morning at the signing ceremony of the UAE German Energy Partnerships event, where actually hydrogen is the cornerstone there, and there will be more cooperation in form of a task force. The same is true for Saudi. There is already a MOU signed between the German Ministry of Economic Affairs and the Saudi government. So there's a lot of hope coming in terms of new technology coming from Germany. And lastly, with the diversification of financing that I alluded to, we can see that government agencies, government-related entities are more and more reaching out over the last year and a half, I would say, to ECAs. Not only do I notice that, but also I hear that from colleagues with other ECAs that are here on the ground in Dubai, where they're very much aware that it's a dynamic world in the sense of sometimes maybe the bond market is the best to tap, and the next time it might be actually ECA finance. And so depending on where we are at the time, they want to have open communication channels and see to it that they have a good contact with ECAs and an open line to brainstorm early on to see what is the best way forward. Maybe that as a sort of overall comment to the report.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eva. I mean, when looking at the figures, it seems to be quite impressive what Jan started and what you continued during the last couple of years when it comes to the share of Hermes covered transactions. Maybe you wanna have a look or discuss that a little bit. I know that you're quite a humble person, so you don't put that in the spotlight, but I think we can certainly do that.
Yeah, okay, so we see here on the right hand side the German exports and cover volume, and what kind of when we came up or colleagues at Euler Hermes came up with this graph, it was quite a surprise to see how we have this opposing trend. On the one hand, exports generally going down towards 2020. We're not looking at 2021 yet, and the volume of cover going up. Yes, with a bit of caution, I was saying, tongue-in-cheek, 2019 was when the Competence Centre was implemented over here. Maybe that has an impact. I will leave that out there. Of course, it is also an important factor because there are many ECAs here on the ground, and when I speak to local, especially government agencies, they always welcome that very much, to have a person on the ground as a representation, but also to say you are taking this region important enough to be to have a representation on the ground rather than trying to do it from abroad. And of course, having said that, before that, Jan's work here, we should not forget, was invaluable, or priceless in a sense that even with being a host or really still a Hamburg employee, but still coming here regularly and setting the ground for this competence center, it was already recognized, and the name, of course, is there. Whoever I speak to, they will ask, "Oh, how is Jan and how are things going?" What else? I think that's sort of what I want to say. Maybe Jan.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. I can only underscore and highly recommend to talk to Eva when it comes to transactions from and to the Middle Eastern region. We are working extremely closely together. My team of advisors in Germany, as well as our colleagues in the underwriting department in Hamburg, which leads me to Jan, who's in charge of our underwriting department, responsible for the region, and as we indicated earlier, he's sort of one of the founding fathers of our presence in the Middle East. He taught me export finance a long time ago. So in the region you would probably say Abu. But anyways, let's turn it over to Jan. Jan, this growth of our share in the market has been fairly impressive. What are, from your point of view, what are the reasons behind it?
Yeah, thank you, Felix. Thank you very much, and good morning from my side as well. And I think it's a bit of too much honor to me in saying I'm the founding father and things like that. So I had a lot of fun, and it was really a good time in Dubai. So and I like to come back, not of course permanently, but from time to time. But let's say how mirrors the numbers on the slide with our numbers in terms of covered volumes and sectors and countries. I think let's start with the UAE. In the past, most of our transactions were in the aviation sector, being Emirates or Etihad. But now we see a move there. We see a lot of transactions in the manufacturing sector, and I think this is pretty much what the UAE is or has in mind to do. So, and especially the investors are private companies, smaller and medium-sized companies. As I said, any manufacturing sector, and beside the construction equipment, which is of course some important element still, we see projects in, for example, in the carpet industry, printing industry, glass industry. So more, let's say, traditional manufacturing sites, and some bigger projects are in the pipeline where German exporters are bidding for. We also see in the UAE, and in order to boost that, we have started the cooperation with the Export Credit Agency of the UAE, Etihad Credit Insurance, where we are very close to have an agreement to see how we can really benefit on both sides. So if I see the pipeline, there are still more projects, even in the manufacturing sector, are coming. Moving to Saudi Arabia, still traditionally sectors as construction and energy, but in the past it was mostly energy production and distribution. Now it's more energy management, not very big numbers, but in that field, and some others as well. And we clearly see the demand coming from projects out of the 2030 vision. So not only, as already mentioned by Heena, the NEOM projects, where we have already applications in-house which we are working on, but on the other projects in Saudi as well. And Eva already referred to a different strategy in diversification of funding. So we are in very close contact with the department in the Ministry of Finance in Saudi Arabia, looking after ECA financing, and we are, of course, more than happy that we did the first one in end of 2019 with this department in Saudi Arabia. And there are more fields of cooperation which we are directly have engaged ourselves with. For example, we are in a very good discussion with the PIF in Saudi Arabia in order to see how we can cooperate and have benefits for both sides. That's maybe for Saudi. Qatar, unfortunately, we see really nothing at the moment coming to us. I mean, we have no German EPC in the oil and gas sector, so there's nobody who can bid for the LNG trains. So maybe there are coming smaller exporters who are sub-suppliers to the EPCs. Let's see. And the other market I would like to mention is Iraq, where we see still a lot of demand in the energy sector, especially in order to rebuild the energy sector or the electricity system in Iraq. This is a short overview of what we see on our desks, and I think that is pretty much in line what especially Eva mentioned in terms of diversification and the intention of both, especially the UAE and Saudi Arabia, to steer their economy in a different direction and away from oil and gas. So thank you. Back to you, Felix.
All right, thank you very much, Jan, for this close-up on what is happening on your desk. Thank you very much. So we have the first questions coming in. Feel free to ask any additional questions. Of course, we will also provide you in the aftermath of this event with presentation that you saw during the event. First question to you, Heena, from a small company here in Germany, which doesn't have any current footprint in the Middle East, but has worked, as I understood, has worked with customers in the Middle East already. Where would you set up a representative office? Are there bridgeheads which you can recommend, or is it something which differs from sector to sector?
Yes, actually, it does differ a lot. It depends on the industry you are. It depends on which sector you're looking at. It depends where you actually want to focus into. It depends on so many different things. So I would actually recommend if you could just forward the email to me. Maybe we can get in contact. But normally, it's actually a very challenging thing to say, especially within the GCC region. There are a lot of now initiatives also coming from Saudi Arabia with the headquarters, and so it's getting a little bit more complicated. I think this is something every company has to decide for themselves, but there are definitely a lot of things which they have to take into consideration while doing it to be successfully operating in this market. So that's actually a really challenging one, a very, very specific one. So hard to actually answer correctly right now, to be honest. I'm not brave enough to just say something, so I will try to help if you can forward it. But
yeah, I will definitely do that. In terms of the investors' climate, I mean, we have some we have seen always quite good rankings in the ease of doing business. Maybe you want to elaborate a little bit more on that. You know that German investors are fairly risk adverse. What are the current trends that you see for investors from Germany in the Middle East? Where do they place their money?
In the UAE, I would absolutely agree with Eva, because they're really trying to diversify their economy. There are a lot of reforms happening, and even right now, after the COVID or I'm not even sure if we can say after the COVID-19 crisis, because it's still going on, but let's be positive.
Indeed, yeah.
Just assume now also with the positive numbers, there are a lot of reforms actually going on here where they are trying to make the market more attractive. When I started in 2019, they changed their law of ownership. Now companies don't really need an Emirati partner anymore if they want to be active in the UAE market, which is a huge success. There are some exemptions to the rule. For example, in the oil and gas industry, it's still not possible, but in most sectors, it is now actually possible. But even when it comes to living standards, there are so many reforms they actually published just recently. For example, it becomes much, much easier to buy alcohol and these kind of things. Also, for visa applications, they now introduced the golden visa, which means that you can actually stay in the country up to 10 years, which makes life, of course, much, much easier. Now they also have the green visa, which is especially designed for people in specific sectors that they can actually stay here longer. So there are a lot of things which they are doing right now to help the market to become more attractive for foreign investors. And I can see a lot actually happening now as well. And this is just the starting, and in the future we see much more reforms which will help to make it an even more attractive business hub.
Maybe one comment, Felix, also, since we both, Heena and I, are sitting in the office of the German Chamber of the AHK, obviously the Chamber also can provide some information and advice in terms of setting up, whether it be here in the UAE, in Dubai, a free zone. What are the benefits? What are the repercussions? Do I need a foreign partner? Do I not need a foreign partner? What does it cost? All of these kind of things. They are trained and well knowledgeable about these things to advise on that. It's the same for Saudi, of course, the Ghazala office over there, where we are happy to put you in touch with. The other point maybe, and that was covered extensively in the Hermes click&coffee that we had in German language, because we had a colleague from PwC also speaking about the investment guarantees of the German government, depending on which industry you're talking about and what is your investment really. Maybe you want to protect that by an investment guarantee. So that is also something we can put you in touch with.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that is something extremely valuable, not only from an insurance point of view to have your political risk covered when investing in the Middle East, but also it facilitates, of course, financing from Germany or from Europe. I have well, it's not really a question. It's more a comment from an SME here in Germany, stating that he finds it a pity that export financing is only available for very high project sums, starting at 1 million euro. Well, I have to say that this is not, of course, entirely true. I mean, we have seen a steady rise in what we call small tickets, starting at 100, 250,000 euro. Therefore, I mean, don't take this for granted. I mean, start the discussion with Eva, with me, or other people involved. We can see what we can do, both on the insurance side, on the Hermes side, as well as, of course, with our extensive network in the banking world. We can certainly support you, and we have seen, as I said, and the name click&coffee is sort of an abstract from our product click&cover export, which has been fairly successful, providing cover and financing, of course, to small tickets, to small transactions, and therefore start discussing with us these possibilities, and we will certainly find a solution for that.
Felix, just a comment
yeah.
on that, because also it's something that has probably come up a bit more in the last few months within the Competence Centre. Yeah, the moment we reach sort of the 1 million hurdle, that is correct. It's much easier to then speak about a buyer's credit and getting the small ticket financed through various forms, and how banks are actually also coming together now with the platforms to provide a quite efficient digital solution. The moment we fall under the 1 million euro and the exporter does not want to provide a supplier's credit, we're sort of in a squeeze. And that is something that a question that has come up a couple of times, where it's not so easy to find a solution, to be honest. I guess that's
definitely. Yeah, but still, I think the supplier's credit, so the exporter acts as a banking partner, is something worth looking into. And you can certainly, through this mechanism, which we are able to underwrite, to ensure, you can provide financing to your customers all around the world, and of course, especially in the Middle East. And that is something which sets you apart from other competitors, and therefore it's worth looking into. All right, I'm just checking whether we have any further questions. All right, that doesn't seem to be the case. Therefore, if there are any further questions, my participants have, of course, the opportunity to add points which haven't been made yet, if you feel like it.
I would actually have a question that came up also this morning in this meeting, and that's probably Jan is probably the best person to answer that, if he has an answer, that is, since you are frequently attending also the international ECA meetings, and that is when it comes to hydrogen and the move towards utilizing ECA covered finance for these hydrogen projects when they become or reach that stage. The issue with the OECD guidelines and it not being recognized as a renewable energy and therefore not having the benefit of the long tenor. Do you think that there is a solution imminent, or is that going to be something that will take years? Is it going to be a hurdle? What's your point of view on that one?
Thank you, Eva. Good question. Well, I mean, the hydrogen projects normally, at least the ones we've seen, does not make standalone sense. So you need to have the energy, and if the energy is being provided, for example, by renewables, then of course I think we can look at it as a total project, not only on the hydrogen one. So all the projects I've seen or we have been talking about where normally the energy source was renewable, because that's the issue making them green. And if it's a combined project, let's say, then I would think that the OECD guidelines would apply.
Okay.
And that makes it possible to have financing for, as Eva said, for a longer time period than for conventional projects up to 18 years.
Yeah.
So
and
we
on top, maybe the scope is under discussion at the moment as well. So there is an ongoing discussion to see what the scope should be for the future, especially having in mind what kind of industries in the future would be there in order to support the transformation process in general. So I expect that the scope will be increased.
Yeah, and I think it's no secret that we as the Germany CA are looking for these green projects. I mean, it's not going to come as a surprise that under the new government in Germany there will be an increased and even more emphasis on green projects. That having said, I mean, you should discuss these projects with us if you're in this sector. I'm totally convinced that we will be able to provide you with some support there, and it's our aim, of course, to help in the transition when it comes to the energy sources in the Middle East as well, of course. During our discussion on green refinancing and financing of green projects, we got another question for Jan. The question is whether it's possible to have any long-term finance solution from our side, which would cover currency risk. This could be answered by one word, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that. What the possibilities are there. Well, at the moment you're still muted.
Yeah, that's always my fault.
No problem.
Well, I mean, we have no separate project where you can insure currency risk itself. What we can do is making, let's say, coverage in the currency where the contracts are, and then you get in the end, if something is going wrong, you get your indemnification in the respective currency. For example, this is possible for US dollars. So you will get the policy in dollars, you will get the invoice in dollars, and you will get the indemnification in dollars. So that's one possibility to address this. As I said, we have no product just covering the currency risk.
Which are the local? I mean, we of course have the possibility to have the policy in one of the world currencies. Let's call it in Swiss francs, or as you said, in US dollars. Is there also a possibility to have the policy in local currencies?
Yes, for several markets we are prepared to cover local currency as well. So it's very much depending on the capital market in the respective country, whether it's let's say close to international criteria in this capital market. If that is the case, then we can go for local currency as well. I think we have done it in the past for South African rand. We have done for Hong Kong dollars, for Singapore dollars. That is coming to my mind. I think it should be. We can have a look in UAE currency as well.
All right, thank you very much. All right, at this point in time, we don't have any further questions. Therefore, I would like to thank Heena, Eva, and Jan for their outstanding input. Thank you very much to all of you. And of course, also to our organization team in the background. Well, at least I can say that for myself, I would be lost without them. Therefore, Janine and Caroline, thank you very much. Vielen Dank. And yeah, we would like to invite you to our next sessions. We will continue with this click and coffee format, and we will introduce some other events as well. We also hope to welcome you again in person in next year. We are quite confident that we will be able to provide you with invitations and events which we will conduct either in a hybrid format, meaning online as well as in presence. But we really hope to be able to give you the chance to discuss with us in person. This, of course, is possible already, and we are working on some events for next year. Until then, stay healthy, get vaccinated, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.